ẹ̀yin èèyàn mi bàbá Ọláyọmí Kóìkì sọ àwọn ọ̀rọ̀ kan nínú fídíò yìí tí màá fẹ́ kẹ́ ẹ tún jẹ́ kájọ wò ká tó jọ mú ẹ̀kọ́ ń bẹ̀ torí pé gbogbo nǹkan wọ̀nyí a fi ń bá gbogbo wa náà sọ̀rọ̀ ni a dẹ̀ tún fi ń pe àkíyèsí ara wa náà sáwọn nǹkan kan tó ń ṣẹlẹ̀ ní ilẹ̀ kóòtù òjìrè. ẹ̀yin èèyàn mi ẹ farabalẹ̀ dáadáa ẹ jẹ́ àtúnjọ wo fídíò yìí ẹ jájọ gbọ́ nǹkan tí bàbá mi mo wo fídíò ẹ rí i pé fídíò tí mo fún yín yẹn mo sọ pé bàbá Aṣọ́kò tí ṣe fídíò yẹn ó ká mi lára nígbà tí mo gbọ́ gbogbo nǹkan tí bàbá yìí sọ. Bàbá Ọláyọmí Kóìkì wọ́n sọ àwọn ọ̀rọ̀ kan náà nínú fídíò yìí tí màá fẹ́ kí gbogbo ẹ̀yin ọmọ Yorùbá kẹ́ ẹ bá mi ṣíà ẹ̀ kó dọ́wọ́ gbogbo ọmọ kóòtù òjìrè nílé àti lókè òkun. ẹ ṣé mo dúpẹ́ o.
And get housing, healthcare, education free. Buhari was quoted as saying by the cable during a panel appearance with the world leaders at the Commonwealth Business Forum in London. I'm sure the citizens of Saudi Arabia, as we know, that are less than 40 million, would expect their government to divide and give them all the opportunity to allow them to flourish and to become people and compete around the world. So if Nigerians believe that it's an oil-producing country, it is their fundamental right that the government of the day provide the basic necessities of life for them to grow. And that is the farmers, specifically on the topic this morning on starvation in Yoruba land. But what we saw is that the agenda is not to flourish farmers. The agenda was to destroy the farmland using all kind of different tools, mostly terrorism against the Yoruba people, the southwest part. And that means for good 8 years, the Yorubas in the southwest were struggling seriously to get back to farm and produce and cultivate, because Buhari and his clan, the Fulanis, knew that if we are able to feed ourselves, then much will not be needed. But those that are not being fed, the starvation will kick in and your strength will become weaker. And which is exactly what has happened. We have now seen many of the Yoruba people today that have become very weak. Just like we said yesterday, they have become very poorer because the farming sector in the southwest was destroyed by Buhari and his Fulani clan within the southwest. But the question is, what has our leaders, our kings, done to make sure that they can challenge this? They all kept muted because most of them were scared of Buhari, and some of them were preparing for the incoming president that is a Yoruba man. So rather than challenge Muhammadu Buhari, a Fulani man, against these atrocities, they all kept quiet, knowing fully well that any challenge against Buhari would affect their son, President Bola Tinubu, that was coming to office. But a young man stood out among them all. A young man stood out among them all. He refused to be bought. He refused to accept the shenanigans of the Fulanis on our soil. He knew that something was not right. That if we continue to allow these politicians and our kings to accept what Buhari was doing as at the time, it will have a major impact, which is what we are experiencing today. The reason why there's starvation in Yoruba land is because the consequence of not speaking out and challenging the status quo of Buhari and his clan as of the time is why we are all have to now support millions of Yoruba people that are falling into starvation. We saw what happened in Ibadan. Would never have died because most of them, their parents, at least half of their parents or somebody they know would have been a farmer, and they will have no reason to go there and some little spitend of food when they have a large amount of hectares of land to have grown maize, cassava, cocoa, which is what the Yoruba people are good at. Maize, the most commonly cultivated crop, with about 92.3% of farmers growing it, could not even grow the the maize. One of the most fastest crop that you can put on the ground, and within 1 year, there will be multiple of maize, and maize can be turned to many things, from ogi to other things that can be used for. But we could not get this going because there were already terrorists on our land. And these terrorists were sitting duck, ready to kill. As at yesterday, as I speak to us, as at yesterday, a young Yoruba man has been kidnapped somewhere in Yewa, and we still don't have any clue. I've spoken to people in Yewa this morning, and they are still trying to locate and find this particular individual. For those of you that are saying that we are all just shouting on the social media, you can see what we have all turned to. Starvation that we could have challenged if only we supported Igboho and Baba Akintoye. To challenge the status quo, yet we all kept muted because it has no impact on us. But the ripple effect of the starvation is now cracking in on a daily basis, that millions of Yoruba people are struggling on a daily basis as I speak to you right now. Yoruba. We that we are good at farming, we now have to rely on the northern part of Nigeria to supply the food that we are going to consume. And you ask yourself, what is the purpose of all the lands that we have in Yoruba land? The vast amount of empty land that has become no-go area. All these was an agenda, and this agenda kept on going for 8 years of Buhari's administration. Let's take us back to People's Gazette, and I'm just pulling out different record because to remind us, to put it on record, that what Igboho was fighting for was not because of himself. Igboho was fighting for the starvation of the people of Yoruba land that are called Yoruba in the southwest part of Nigeria. That was the mission, to stop those criminal terrorist Fulanis from invading our lands. Rather, they decided to push Igboho out of the territory. They attempted to kill him on the 1st of July 2021. He was only lucky. Many people would not be lucky to have survived that attack. 2 innocent Yoruba men were killed by Fulani right inside Igboho's compound. Adogon's body has not been returned. Alhaji Fatai, his uncle's body, has not yet been returned as well. Innocent Yoruba people were moved from Ibadan. If we have our Yoruba country, all laws will be governed within Yoruba land. Nobody will take you out of Yoruba land to the north for any case. Rather, the Yorubas that we are talking to continue to live in denial. If a crime is committed in the southwest, you are taken to Abuja for the case to be heard, rather for the case to be heard in Yoruba land. These will not occur and happen. Tabagbalewa. If there's a case and there's a crime, those crimes will be committed. Even if you are a Yoruba citizen and you commit a crime outside, we have the right to talk to the government of whoever around the world and request that our citizens should be tried at home, which a lot of other countries have done, from the United Kingdom to America. They rather want their children, their citizens, to be tried on the ground and the soil in America and UK and Germany, rather than any other countries where they've committed a crime. Yet, many Yoruba people are sleeping dog, hoping that something will change, hoping that the Fulani's agenda will go away and the starvation would also go out of Yoruba land. But what they forgot to understand is that the starvation is not going anywhere. The starvation will continue to grow because we have seen that even the current administration does not have the balls to stop the jihadis, terrorists on our land. Rather, they are becoming much more powerful. Since this present administration, we thought that maybe because it was the previous administration that left the door of the military barracks open, that left the borders open, that nothing can be done. But we will expect that a new administration will stop it and curb the invasion of the Fulani terrorists on our land. Rather, we have heard that Fulani terrorists continue to invade the military barracks for hours, continue kidnapping, and as we know, many people have died during the process of all this. While we all live in denial, let me remind you that some of us will not sit and keep our mouths shut because we can no longer wait for those that we are expecting to speak out. The pastors, the imams, the traditionalists, the who and who in Nigeria that are Yorubas refuse to speak out because they have a stake in Nigeria and they are not allowing that stake to be thrown away because of their support to Fulani agenda. This has been going on for a very long time. We know that because even the late MK Abiola was part of the agenda of a Fulani on Yoruba land. Many of them like that. They've all kept quiet because the Fulanis have injected money into most of their businesses. The Fulanis have turned them to become who they are today. And they are not going to speak on your behalf. One is sorrow. Nípa gbogbo tó ń ṣẹlẹ̀ nílẹ̀ Yorùbá. Nítorí pé ọ̀pọ̀lọpọ̀ nínú wọn bó ṣe di ọlọ́lá lénìí, bó ṣe dolówó lénìí, bó ṣe dèèyàn pàtàkì nílẹ̀ Yorùbá kò ṣẹ̀yìn Fúlàní lọ. Most of them knows the truth. But because they are worried that táwọn bá sọ̀rọ̀, Fúlàní máa gba gbogbo tó wà lọ́wọ́ wọn. So they rather do not want to speak out. They kept quiet while Yoruba land goes in starvation. Let's go to People's Gazette of 1st of March 2021. An exclusive document exposed how former Fulani man Muhammadu Buhari awarded 12 billion naira Ruga contract to dubious unregistered companies. The president suspended the controversial Ruga policy in July 2019. Ruga, I'm sure some of you have forgotten about it. It was an agenda to take Yoruba waterways. They wanted to control the Yoruba waterways just as they've already controlled all our farmland. Most of our land have become only for the Fulani to operate on. Yet, Igboho came out, spoke about this, but Igboho became the enemy, while the real enemy are moving around across Yoruba land today, and starvation continues to grow. Rather than every one of us to support him, and the agenda of the Yoruba land that we are calling for under the leadership of Professor Akintoye, we all kept muted because we do not want to be stained. We do not want to be called names. But it is good to call Igboho name. It is good to call Baba Akintoye name and those that are campaigning for Yoruba nation. But those that have the say today have kept quiet. But one day, history will remember each one of us. Because whether you like it or not, the breakup of Nigeria is going to happen. How it's going to happen will be decided by the Yorubas at the appropriate time. But for now, we will continue to highlight the main reasons and many reasons why Yoruba needs to be free and have their own independent Yoruba land away from the current Nigeria that was created by the British in 1914 for their own selfish gain. Ile Yoruba gbọ́dọ̀ dá dúró so that the starvation that is going on and many other issues can be resolved. Many countries around the world continue to close their borders against the people. Whether you are Nigerian, whether you are from other part of the world, while we have our land that we're ready to build better than Dubai, better than New York, better than UK, better than Japan, with industry far better than China, it can be done. But the agenda is that we have many enemies within the Yoruba land, and they are doing everything to stop the Yoruba people from achieving their aims and objectives of having a true independent Yoruba country, which is going to be far better than the current status of what Nigeria is today. Following the nationwide outrage, President Muhammadu Buhari decided as at the time to suspend the controversial Ruga. And again, this takes me back to the Ruga. This article again is coming from the Premium Times of July 3rd, 2019. Nígbà tí ọ̀rọ̀ Ruga tó ń lọ. Yes, for some of us, you might think that it is gone. But remember that Tinubu has a very limited time. The Fulanis are waiting and slowing down and wait for him to complete his tenure. If we allow him to do 4 years, it's entirely up to us. If we give him the room to extend it to 2031, that is entirely up to us. But if we do something now, we can slow it down and we can retake back our land. The land doesn't belong to President Bola Tinubu. The land belongs to every Yoruba sons and daughters. The land doesn't belong to the Igbos. The Igbos do not own Lagos. They do not own Yoruba land. They have their own land. We can be good neighbors. The Hausa does not own Yoruba land. Chinese does not own Yoruba land. The Europeans does not own Yoruba land. Yoruba land belongs to the true indigenous Yoruba people. And we have every right to decide what we want on it. And if those that are not interested to support it, whether they are Yorubas or non-Yorubas, then they have every right to remove themselves and relocate to the northern part and live with them there as Nigerians. The Yorubas will fight to the last man standing. If it's going to be blood for blood, it's going to happen. But for now, it is still peaceful. And it will remain like that under the leadership of Professor Akintoye. But let me remind every one of you that some of us are ready to sacrifice whatever it takes so that Yoruba nation will come as a true country. Know that we are not going to sit back and allow them to take our land. Fulani does not have any land, and they're doing everything possibly best to take the land. And that is why Buhari wanted to push the Ruga. You might think that the Ruga has done and is gone. But let me remind you that the Ruga is not yet finished. They are only waiting for Tinubu to finish his tenure and bring back another Fulani man and use that to ignite back the Ruga agenda from where Buhari suspended it. President Muhammadu Buhari has suspended the controversial Ruga program the Ebonyi State Governor David Umahi announced on Wednesday. This was in July 3rd, 2019, according to the Premium Times. David Umahi made the announcement Wednesday after a meeting of the National Executive Council NEC committee. Again, farmer and herders crisis. There's nothing like farmer herder crisis. Let me remind you, this was what Buhari and his criminal government as at the time, including the Olori Buruku Babofo that call himself Lai Mohammed, continue to tell the international community that it is just a clash between farmers and those that are moving their cow. These are criminals that are not with cow. We've heard Brigadier Togun that spoke about how Amotekun has been crumbled in Yoruba land. That most of those that they're calling herders do not have cows. They are moving with weapons, AK-49, RPG, MPG, and continue to kill innocent Yoruba people within Yoruba land, while we are so stupid to have tolerated such because of our Omoluabi. It is important that we throw away our Omoluabi. Igbowo cannot be in every part of Yoruba land, but his voice is the voice of the voiceless. And they know that. And that is why they want to make sure that whenever he speaks, they want to crush down his voice. And some idiot will tell you that Igbowo speaks too much. He's challenging the status quo. He's calling Obasanjo, he's calling this, he's calling that. And the question is, what has Obasanjo said to the crime against Yoruba people in Yoruba land? What has Obasanjo said? What has Bisi Akande said? All your senators, your governors, every one of them refused to say something. But because they know that Igbo will continue to challenge the Fulanis, because who we are challenging are the Fulanis, and they know that. And we will continue to call the attention of the international community that the starvation that is happening in the southwest part of Nigeria today, known as the Yoruba part, is an agenda of ethnic cleansing. And we will not sit back and see a similar situation that has occurred in other countries around the world. And the fact that we cannot get to the farm means that more people will be dying, because oko gongon nibiti owowa. And the fact that for 8 years of Buhari's regime, we could not make it back to the farm. Do not be deceived that farmers are making money in Yoruba land. No farmers have made any money in the last 10 years in Yoruba land. They might be making money, as they are being told by all these criminal journalists that continue to tell you that they're doing very well in Kaduna, they're doing very well in Kano and Sokoto, but yet we are not doing very well in Yoruba land. That is an agenda to starve you and me. There is no amount of foreign currency that we are sending from diaspora that can resolve the problem. The problem needs to be resolved by stopping the starvation in Yoruba land. And that is part of what we are campaigning for. Say no to starvation in Yoruba land. Say no to starvation in Yoruba land. Our governors know what to do, yet they all keep quiet. Even though Buhari is no longer in office, but we saw how the Fulani agenda continued to be pushed, especially with the devil of Sokoto calling himself Sultan of Sokoto, talking about bringing Sharia into Yoruba land. They are dealing with us in the farm. They are now bringing their agenda right onto the doorstep. We can't go to the farm, and we cannot be able to even look like Yoruba people within Yoruba land. That means we are dealing with multiple problems simultaneously. What gba agbe kúrò lọ́wọ́ wa? What to fake gba our ways of life within Yoruba land? And you think that we will just sit back and do nothing? Ọmọ Yorùbá, ẹ lọ múra, ogun ti dé. Ogun gidi ti wà nílẹ̀ Yorùbá. Wọ́n ti gba iṣẹ́ àgbẹ̀ kúrò lọ́wọ́ wa fún ọdún mẹ́wàá. Because the 2 years of President Bola Tinubu, nothing has changed so far. We have not seen any changes. Not even by 1% of farmers in Yoruba land. The 8 years of Buhari was a disaster. 2 years of Tinubu, Ashin grapple. We cannot get to the farm. The question is, what to fake Sharia wole? Cheripe, we are dealing with different problems. We are aware today that President Buhari has suspended the implementation of Ruga program initiated and being implemented by the Federal Ministry of Agriculture and Natural Resources because it is not consistent with the NEC and the federal government approval National Livestock Transformation Plan, which has programs of rehabilitation of displaced IDPs resulting from the crisis and also development of ranches in any willing state of the Federation. The NEC is headed by the Vice President Yemi Osinbajo and have developed the NLTP as a long-term solution to the preliminary herdsmen farmer crisis. Ta ló ń bára wọn jà? Ṣé farmer ló ń bá terrorist jà ni àbí terrorist ló ń lé farmer kúrò lórí oko? Like I said to you, as of yesterday, we've missed another Yoruba man somewhere in Yewa, and only God knows how many are missing that we don't even have accountability. But we know, according to the record, that 29,000 Yoruba people were killed by Buhari and his Fulani clan, the terrorists, during his tenure from 2015 up to 2023. The presidency, the Ruga, is a program recently announced by the federal government to enable willing states to contribute large areas of their land. Ilẹ̀ tí a ní, wọ́n ní kó sílẹ̀ fáwọn Fúlàní, kó gbé màálù wá síbẹ̀, kó ṣe tó bá wù wọ́n níbẹ̀. Until everybody started shouting, say no to Ruga, say no to Ruga, say no to Ruga. You might think that the Ruga agenda is done. Let me remind you, it is just been swept under the carpet, and they are waiting for Tinubu to complete his tenure, and they'll bring it back. This was to contribute large areas of land to the federal government for construction of animal husbandry settlement. Ta ló ní business, ta ló ń béèrè pé kó fún wọn ní ilẹ̀? Do I get a free land in Sokoto and Kano to run my alcohol business if I wanted to? Do I get a free land in the Castina in Borno for my piggery business, or do I have to buy the land? So why was the federal government pushing for Ruga as at the time? I'm sure most of you know it is all the agenda to take our land from us. And these, we cannot continue. The presidency has said that 12 states have indicated willingness to be part of the program. State Mejila as at the time, even though we know that they were going to force all the other governors to do the same thing, whether they like it or not, until the citizens started shouting and crying out that we will not allow Ruga right in our state. The Ruga program has, however, been criticized by many Nigerians, with many state governors opposing it. Yet, most of the governors in Yoruba land today are not speaking out frequently, sharply, lórí ọ̀rọ̀ Sharia. They are making the Sharia as if it's not a big issue. Sharia is just one another agenda, more like Ruga, more like bí a ṣe lè lọ sínú oko láti lè lọ dá oko. Speaking on their meeting on Wednesday, David Umahi says, we, the NEC Committee on Farmer and Herders Crisis, there was never a crisis. It was a terrible attack on farmers. Farmers that could not make it to their land and crop. Farmers that have done so much with their life, yet they are being attacked, killed by Fulani terrorists. And all these agenda are deliberately, they have continued to push their agenda. And that is why many analysts have talked about that if you think that it is not real that they want to take your land, please put that at the back of your mind. The agenda is real, and there is no doubt about it. If we give room more than what we have already been given, if we tolerate more more than what we have already tolerated, if we allow more than what we already allowed, this agenda would happen and it will be difficult to stop it. Already it has become a problem. Nílẹ̀ Yorùbá lẹ́ni. And if I take you to quickly before, because we are very limited with the time, I'm going to be ending the program very soon, and I want to touch on these. This was one of the headlines I picked up from the dailies yesterday, and I saw it and I was shaking my head and asking myself, so have we got to the stage where those in Lagos State are reminding us that as much as some of you always say that, oh, we are the one creating problems, but the problem is there already, but we live in denial. And everybody knows that the problem is going nowhere if we are not going to deal with it properly. Bear with me. Once again, a very good morning and welcome to a very Sunday short transmission all the way from Africa, where we are currently at the moment, before we return back to our base. Mukiba Bawa Akitoye Dada, for the great job he's doing. I received his call this morning. He was checking on me to make sure I'm doing very well, and I'll be visiting him again in the next couple of days. Mukiba Bawa Loye Gbowo, Muki Gbogbo Àwọn Ọmọ Yorùbá káàkiri gbogbo bíkíbi tí olúkálùkù wa tí a ti ń ṣe iṣẹ́ takuntakun. It is not compulsory that you have to be under these two leaders. If you want to be a leader of your own, you have every right. And nobody's holding you back. But for those of us that believe in the leadership of Baba Akitoye, we will continue to give them all the necessary support, and we will continue to give them all the necessary media work, because I want to share for money. I work for Baba Akitoye, and I also work for Igboho and the others, as you all know. And like I said, I'll be visiting Baba in the next few days when I return back from my trip, where I'm currently at the moment. Moki Bugwalenkonsi. I'm just trying to find that article, then I can pick it up from there, and I believe it's got to do with something that I have been talking about when it comes to the insecurity, within the Yoruba land. We are just about 15 minutes to the end of this broadcast this morning, because, like I said, it is not a full broadcast, but it's just something that we need to touch on. As we all know, we're always on the go on this platform. Thank you so much once again for all those that have contributed so far on this channel, whether through donation, prayer, whether through advice. But please do not advise me to tell Igboho to speak less. Igboho will be speaking more, and he has all my support. And that goes to those of you that are calling me and saying, keep that to yourself. While we are waiting for that, let me just click this in just to remind you of the agenda of the Fulanis while I'm looking for that particular.
It's not about sentiments. Is that there are a group of people in this country that feels that this country should be Islamized. This is a fact. I say you want me to start mentioning names of people in this government that we have interrogated. I was a member of an interrogation team, and I've interrogated a very high-ranking member of this government in 2007, 2008 on the issue of Boko Haram. I interrogated him. He's in this government right now. And what was the issue? Boko Haram. And this senior officer was actually let go because he was found culpable. But right now he's in the government. You see, we must say the truth, because if you don't, this country is going down the precipice. We have been set back more than 60 years right now. We've gone back to the time before 1966 now. And whoever is coming back to repair this country has a lot of work to do. This country has never been polarized, so we cannot run away from it. We have never been this much polarized. I'm a federal person. My mind is federal. My brain is federal. My loyalty is federal. I do things for the federal government. So I cannot come here and try to be sentimental. No, I'm a federal person.
So will your life be at risk now that they're hearing you?
I don't care. I don't care. And my colleagues, they know me. Those people that listen to me, they know me. I don't care. The issue is that this country is bigger than an individual. That is the issue. This country is bigger than individuals. Buhari will come and go. Eliminating me or killing me will not solve the problem. Will not add value. But he will come and go. And somebody must come and repair the damage to the psyche of this society. The damage to the polarization, to the nepotism that I've never seen in my life. I work with all these presidents. This is the worst situation I've found myself. And believe me, internet does not forget. I was part of the people that helped to bring Buhari to government because I believe in him.
Have you worked with the government after that?
After
you helped bring the government?
Well, of course, I worked with him. We brought him in 2015, and I work as the Deputy Director of Defense Administration, and we have a lot of hope in him. And we actually are ready to do anything for him. What he has turned out over the years is shocking to us. I was in Harvard in 2014, in December, when the Department of State Services and CIA and others were contemplating about Buhari and other aspirants. I know what we did to convince the American government that the only person that can come and put this country right is Buhari.
The final part of this discussion this morning. Starvation in the southwest part of Yoruba land is because of the agenda of the Fulanis. And fún ẹ̀yin tí ẹ jẹ́ ọmọ Yorùbá tá ń sọ pé ọ̀nà àbáyọ tó kù nísìn ni pé in tó lè dákun starvation tó lè hold ẹ̀ tá lè fi dá dúró ó ní pé kí a gbára wa kúrò nínú ibi tí wọ́n pè ní Nigeria. And the quicker we do that, the better for every single one of us. The more Tabashin believe we can work something out, we can push one kind of agenda by continuity of the voting pattern that is a crime scene in Nigeria. All that will not stop starvation. We have seen that Tinubu could not stop the starvation in Yoruba land. He has been in office going to 2 years now, and nothing is fantastic. So Tinubu cannot stop the agenda, and we know that already. So what we need to be doing now is telling President Bola Tinubu to divide Nigeria. Ki Yoruba lo, ki Igbo lo, ka Hausa lo, Kolukaruku lo, on their separate ways. And we can all do this if we unite as Yoruba people and demand one thing is Yoruba independent country. That is how far I can take you on a Sunday broadcast. Moki Bubua in one go. I will not be mentioning names. Cotonou is a beautiful place. Togo is a beautiful place. Ghana is a beautiful place. We can also make Yoruba land a beautiful place. Like I said, the work has to be done by every one of us. It is easier said than done if you sit back and say somebody else should take the role when you can also play your role. It doesn't matter whether you are in diaspora, whether you are in the homeland, everybody has different role. And playing my role doesn't mean I am the best, but like I said, I am your last man standing. And stop telling us not to come back home. This is our home. And It doesn't matter how long you have lived abroad. This territory, don't put in Yoruba, belongs to every single one of us. Kò ń ṣe fún Tinubu nìkan, kò ń ṣe fún àwọn politicians nìkan. They can think that they have what it takes right now, but if we are able to convince and tell people that the reason why there is starvation in Yoruba land is because Ashiwa nínú Nigeria.